Pleiades, episode 12, At the Water's Edge. And this is the final episode, and I have Scott on with me.
Hello, everyone.
Yep, and we're going to say goodbye to these magical girls here soon, but before that, we've got top 3. And I'll jump right into it with mine. Black holes suck. And am I right? You know, cue the drum. Exactly. And I think you made a note here, too, that, you know, but I won't get into yours too much, but black holes, you know, even scientists don't really know what they do, and, you know, for me, growing up in sci-fi anime movies and stuff like that, I always see them as, you know, portals to other parts of the universe. That's the way I always see them. Just because
the movie Black Hole. That's what that
right,
was.
yeah. I mean, there's a bunch. I think I've seen it in like a couple of TV shows, maybe some anime, maybe some cartoons. Black holes are always used as, you know, gateways to other worlds. So for me, I never really thought of it, you know, being much. But you know, as I got older, you know, and watched more science stuff, you know, learn a little bit more. But still, even today, I don't think that they know what black holes are.
Yep. And that brings it up to something that, you know, my number 3 point, the president, the Pleiadian, was talking about. You know, it's a singularity, it's a point in space, it's a black hole. And then Houkago is like, is it a point or a hole? Make up your mind. You know, science fiction has what you call a creative license. You know, you don't really pay too much accurate attention to what science actually is, and your trade-off is that you get a cool thing happening in your program or in your story.
Right.
Science also has a creative license, and that's called hypothesis. And a lot of what we understand about gravitation and what forms black holes and how stars collapse is built upon those hypothetical models. A lot of weird math that I can't even begin to even understand when you get right down to it. It gets down to weird symbols, folks.
I was about to say you lost me at math. When you
exactly.
Talking,
so. I mean, I'm lost myself. I should never mention that. It's a terrible thing. But they're not really holes or they're not really points. What they are is they are just a point of super freaking gravity. I mean, you know, all the density of that former star just collapses into one point. And, you know, a star is pretty dense because, you know, if you look at some maps of space, they draw the sun in the middle of our solar system and how it's leaving a depression in space-time, and that's what causes all the planets to orbit around it. It's kind of gliding around this curve, but never quite falling into it because it has momentum going on its side. And so, you know, things about black holes, you know, Stephen Hawking 30 years ago suggested that every single galaxy has a black hole at its center. And other astrophysicists laughed at him. Today, if you even suggest that there aren't black holes in the center of all the galaxies, you're the kook.
Right.
So ideas about what black holes are changing all the time. I mean, you know, the idea of even how the accretion disk is formed, that thing that you actually see the black hole for, how they can travel, how and where they travel, they can merge, all sorts of really weird points about black holes. So they played creative license with this pretty well. And I just love the fact that, you know, there was Minato just kind of in the center of it somewhere chasing down that last fragment. And they could see him, and they went after him.
Right, yeah, that was a little weird. But yeah, like you said, they take creative angles on things, and I think that's nice that they have some fun with it, you know. And obviously, people need to understand, if you're watching this for learn science, you're doing it wrong. So.
You're doing it wrong, but as something I'll still champion, I think it's especially since it's a show that's engineered, you know, for younger girls and different things like that. It inspires them towards looking towards science, which I think is awesome.
Right, yeah, I'll praise it on that part. I just think if people, you know, like you said, the black hole thing, and, you know, like last week they're jumping through galaxies and all this stuff. Like, if people just take that to heart, like, you know, like you said, they're just taking creative turns on some of these things.
Yeah.
My number 2 would be, oh my god, the kiss between Subaru and Minato. Like, wow, I was like, damn, Subaru, you sly little middle schooler. But I guess from her point of view, she doesn't really know when she's going to see him ever again. So I see why the need to do that. I mean, it's just a nice touch. I mean, even the other girls saw it, which made me laugh, how they reacted. But, yeah, it was nice seeing that little moment between those two.
Like all middle school girls, they were wanting it and cheering for it when it happened.
Yeah, and they do the classic thing where they cover each other's eyes, but, you know, they secretly peek into the fingers. They always do that. It's like, you know, you can't really stop your curiosity. But, yeah, I mean, it was just nice seeing that happen. I mean, I think we've seen it before, but, you know, it was kind of blurred out with the big-ass bright light we saw last time, so we really didn't see it. this time you see it, and it just shows you that I guess Subaru just obviously really likes Minata. So I mean, it's kind of hard not to see.
They earned it.
Oh yeah, I mean they did after all that. And forgot to mention last week as well that when Subaru got her magic back, she has a black outfit and Minata has a white outfit.
Mm-hmm.
I like they swapped clothing, so it's kind of interesting that I forgot to mention that last week. I thought it was kind of a neat touch that maybe her positivity rubbed off on him and they switched each other. It got kind of part of their, I guess, magical power. So it's kind of interesting how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't really do a lot with that, unfortunately. But yeah. So what was your number 2?
Back in time.
Oh yeah.
They go back to the primordial soup, back before any real life or what we would recognize as life happened on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was when they were playing around with potential energy and how you could outlive live your potential, they were kind of going in the reverse direction from Madoka, which was dealing with entropy.
Right.
And how you defeat that, how you have to from the moment of the Big Bang, we have all the energy in the universe that we're ever going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Matter just changes form and energy coalesces back into matter. So it's a neat idea that, if you can time travel, just go back before this particular planet ever got used by any living thing when you get right down to it. And, so that was a good stand-in for them being able to choose their own path from that point on.
Right. I mean, I was always thankful that Subaru didn't have to become this god character to save the universe. I mean, I was really happy about that.
I mean, I read a lot where they were comparing the show to Madoka, and I thought it was a very weak, silly comparison to make for one thing, because that sets your expectation to one thing, and it just kind of tells me that you're not really paying attention to the show that's going on.
Right. I mean,
let it tell its story without any comparison first and foremost.
I mean, for me, it's almost like false advertisement. You're advertising something that is dark and generally, highly praised in the anime community as being, the quote-unquote magical girl turner that, changed everything. But, for me, it's like you just said, you gotta let the show kind of play itself out first before you go, Madoka. It's like, yeah, the tropes are there, magical girl, main leader, pink hair, but that's every magical girl series I've seen.
Yep.
So you can't, even Yuki Yuna didn't really do the full, they went half, I would say, Madoka. But while Madoka went full on, this one's just like more lighthearted.
Yeah, it went serious, but it kept everything relatively well paced to where it could go between seriousness and then pull it back to get a little bit lighthearted, go back to serious. So it told itself very well in that regard.
Right.
And why do people complain about Madoka again? I mean, the one clue that everyone needed the Madoka that everything was going to get serious and dark was just look at the series, the music composer. That should have told you everything you want to know.
Yeah, that and like the writer and creator and all that.
That
stuff.
was really before he had the reputation for being a killer. That's what gave him that reputation.
Yeah. I guess my number 1 would be by the engine rocks finally got combined and the big spaceship finally appeared, which looked really dumb to me.
It was.
I was like, what is this? Like a probe or something? Like, it looks pretty bad.
No, it had those huge running lights. I mean, it's like, what? Those running lights have got to be the size of like planets. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's like you also look at the alien himself. Like, he's not that big, guys.
No,
he doesn't need a spaceship like you said, like 4 planet-sized spaceship here.
Yeah, I mean,
unless there's like millions of his own kind on that ship.
Yeah, because
I don't think so.
Earlier back in the show, when they had like that shaft of light open up above Earth, and he said that's just part of it. To me, that was awesome because it left so much up to the imagination. It was so mind-bogglingly weird that your mind just shut down trying to think about how big it was. The only thing you could imagine was bigger than I can even imagine. And then at the end of the episode, they just had to show it, and it was so it would never match up to your imagination. And then it ended up looking dumb anyway. Oh,
for me, it kind of looked like, I don't know if you've seen the old 80s Transformers movie. It looked like the Unicron in that.
Yeah. Oh,
God. I was like, it's Unicron.
Now it's even worse. Now you've just murdered it worse for me. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, for me, I was expecting more like a tiny ship for him, being that he's one person, one creature, one thing. But I guess obviously they always keep hinting that he takes the form of whatever you want him to be. Yep. Maybe he's actually a humongous alien. Maybe he really is bigger than he really lets on. I
He's
know.
bigger on the inside.
Could be, yeah. And that was nice, but the space, yeah, it was kind of dumb. But and the plebeian kind of jumps in the ship and takes off. It
Yep.
doesn't really say bye, but I mean they did a little bit with him, I guess, Minato, and they do talk a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, with that singularity of that black hole actually being a gate to another universe.
Right, he just takes off, you know.
I kind of like that. It says, yeah, we've seen everything we can and do in this particular universe. We're going to go somewhere else where the laws of physics are different and see what it can do to it. See how it can challenge us.
Because then you had the whole bit with Minato kind of explaining the timelines and the, you know, that kind of thing. It was kind of cool. And you know, in the end, he kind of has to take them back home because the plebeian obviously leaves them. So it's up to Minato to kind of take the girls back home.
Yeah,
so
he was the plebeian's first contact, so it kind of bookended it.
Right, he was like, well, I did my job, now you gotta do the rest.
Yep.
So the plebeian kind of leaves, which is a little bit sad. I mean, you know, I think Nanako, I think, was the only one who was really attached to him. Because, you know, if she had someone to talk to, even interact with. And, yeah, I mean, I think the plebeian even had a relationship with her. He wrote that letter about her birthday.
Such an awesome team. They were such an awesome team. That was one of the coolest moments, just hearing her translate for him throughout the entire series.
Yeah, and they could have easily, you know, played off some, you know, dramatic thing, but they kind of didn't want to. I think they took the different route.
Yeah, she had that kind of gloomy, kind of emo personality, and that kind of voice that matched it. Whenever she talked, whenever she translated for him, she was always bright and happy and chipper and ready to go. And it's just, you wish a little bit of that would rub off on her.
Yeah, and it almost makes you want to think that, you know, interacting with him throughout these episodes kind of helped her grow a little bit and talk to people, and not be so, you know, because her whole story is about being alone. She didn't want to be with anyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the plebeian kind of helps her be with everybody, and she learns that, you know, everyone likes her. I mean, when they did the episode where she goes by herself, you know, that was kind of sad, and all the girls pop up and she's just happy again. So it was nice seeing that little dynamic with those two. But yeah, at the end we had Subaru and everyone kind of returning to their original timelines, which is a little sad, but you know, I saw it coming a mile away.
Oh yeah,
they have to leave eventually. So.
They were shooting for that from the very beginning. It's the journey that counted.
Right, and again, they could have done a whole dramatic, sad thing with this, but they didn't. They left it lighthearted, and you know, the whole thing. We're gonna see each other one day, eventually. You know, it was pretty nice. And what was your number one?
What the heck, heroes? Did they just leave Minato out of the loop? At first, it thought like, my God, he has to go back to his sickbed and die in a coma for crying out loud.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, but Subaru went to visit him.
Mm-hmm.
As that age she was, at the age he was. And so that kind of opened the door, because he said the worst part about him being that way was that no one came to visit him.
Right. Yeah.
He wasn't important in anyone's life. And now he has someone important in his life. And so therefore she has potential to change his life in that respect.
Yeah, I was
because she cares.
I was like, way to sell your parents short there, buddy. I'm pretty sure they've been visiting.
He might not have any.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I know this is anime land.
Right. That's usually
nearly every president. I mean, nearly every adult in anime land is either dead as a result of having children, because that's a good way to have drama.
Yeah.
Or they've just left the country and left the kid to their own devices, because that happens.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna kind of sidetrack. The animated season, I don't know which one it is, but they made a point that his parents are on a world tour. Like his dad's in, you know, Britain taking pictures, and his mom's somewhere else. I think it's the one about the student council president, the short one. But yeah, that was kind of funny how they, like you said, anime parents aren't really around.
No, they're not. Well, because, you know, it's a story about kids.
Right.
And when you have adults in there, it's like, hey, adults, solve this problem for me.
Right.
And that's not the way the drama or the comedy should work out. But yeah, she sticks with him. She finds him, just like she finds everyone else because of the meteor shower at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, wait, be patient, bide your time. Good things can happen. So that's kind of like even though you do have amazing potential, it's like there's a time for every season. That's what to me ultimately what the show is trying to say.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's kind of interesting how they fix all that at the end. That they had that little bit. I like that. Random stuff from the episode would be like again, watching the other girls kind of react to the big kiss was pretty funny. Mm-hmm. Just how they, you know, since they're middle schoolers, they don't interact with a lot of boys, especially the main cast don't, besides Subaru. So it's just funny seeing that moment. And the plebeian, I think, honestly was better as the Moe boy instead of this blob of cuteness. So, like, you know, when they had that flashback where they revealed his other form, kind of like that a little bit better. But like you said before, without the blob form, then Nanako wouldn't have had
Exactly.
her, moment to shine and interact with
Exactly.
everybody. So I mean, I think that was pretty nice. Anything else from the episode you want to mention, or?
Nope, I think you've covered it very well there.
Yeah, we'll go to our series, I guess, overview of the thing. I was happy this wasn't a Space Collect Candy of the week. Have episodes week by week. We got a little bit of mix of things. You got Minato's flashback, Subaru's little backstory, and things like that. It wasn't always, gotta collect the engine part before the world ends.
It started as that. Just as kind of like a hook and give you a sense of familiarity, and then slowly but surely it started to drift away from that a little bit.
Because we got like the training stuff, and we got a bunch of different random things besides collecting the engine shards. But by the end, they had almost all of them. Every episode was about one of the shards. But I think it was just cool how each time was different. They had to get the shard in a different way. It wasn't always the same thing. Like Precure has the issue where blow up bad guy, save the person. That's for 50-some episodes. This one more like it's not in a monster, which was a refreshing change, and it didn't. Like I said, it wasn't the same reused animation of them saving the gem every single week. This was different. Even different strategies of getting the gem was also interesting. Like Nanako going by herself. Usually you would have the team with her. So they changed things up a lot with that.
Yeah, it broke the mold for a typical Magical Girl show, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Just like that, how it wasn't a monster they had to beat, which has been kind of overused in a lot of shows.
A challenge is a challenge is a challenge. So I mean, it's good. It's good that they chose to break that.
That, and like we said, we've praised before. The focus on real space science was really cool. Paying attention to the planets was really good. I mean, like you said, you've even brought several times. The real science. It stands up in this show, but like you said before, there are moments when they kind of have to tweak things a little bit for the anime.
It was a good ratio of what I thought was creative license that's typical to science fiction, but at the same time kind of pointing in that direction. And again, I underline the fact that this is a show mostly probably going to be watched by younger girls, and it kind of says, yes, you too, science, you too, which again, incredibly important.
Right, and the last thing I mentioned was on this little point here, it never got too dark. I mean, they could have easily done a bunch of dramatic, dark arcs with all these characters, but they chose to keep things lighthearted, like I said. They didn't feel the need to, let's go make it dark just to make it dark.
Yeah, there was no like tragedy for the sake of tragedy,
right.
Or tragedy porn, or anything goofy like that.
Like Nanako, you could have done easily a story with her about her brother and her dad dying.
Yeah,
they could have done that, but they didn't do that. I was happy.
She's going through what's typical for any person her age is the fact that she's growing into herself, and it's like, what place does my family have in my life? Should I be missing them? I do miss them. There's nothing to be done about that sort of thing because they're off doing their own thing, and she just has to bide her time and wait for those potentials to come her way.
Right, and like Hikaru dealing with her parents, that whole thing. They could have done an arc with her being the lonely child, since she doesn't have any siblings. They could have done that easily with her, switched Nanako's story with hers, and made it more, super depressing. But they decided not to. That's nice.
The only person we didn't really see any kind of family involvement with was both Aoi and Itsuki. They never really... Well, they did get into Itsuki's family with their brother and how the whole thing of her falling from the tree and him taking the blame for him. But Aoi never got a family. Right,
yeah, we didn't really learn more about her, but people would argue that her story is more tied to Subaru in the first 4 or 5 episodes.
They're family. They're like sisters.
Right. And the next part it was confusing at times with dealing with Minato's backstory. How he found the magical boy and all that, and how he collected the shards. And his shards he collected was different than what the girls were collecting. So almost like he had a whole story that they could have dove into, and maybe explain a little bit more on. Maybe explain like how he got into a coma. Obviously, probably anime accident. Things. Those kind of things happen. And I think they kind of would have done more with him. But he also got the short end of the deal, being revealed as the villain of the series. When really he wasn't all that bad. He got down to it.
Yeah, he just had his own agenda about
right.
Like the fragments. He wanted to live, for crying out.
Right. So he had his motives. Like you say, he was collecting his shards because he wanted to get out of a coma. He wanted.
I don't want to die.
Right. Yeah.
It seems like a great reason to go and pursue that to all ends.
That and
But
that and I was gonna say the girls kind of need someone to oppose them. Someone to be the thorn in the side. That it's him again. In these classic magical girl shows, you gotta have some kind of cheesy villain. You just got to.
yeah, it was neat because I mean, and I thought some of the confusion was brought up because if you look at it in a certain way, Minato's story was the A story, and the girl's story was the B story.
Right.
But we presented it with the other way around. Theirs is the main story, and his is the side story. But if you look at it from a different way, it kind of changes perspective on things a little bit, and that probably was where some of the confusion set in. But with Minato, he had, like you said, he had a motivation for doing what he did.
Right.
And he rightfully said to them, because that's what they all felt. It's like, you'll just keep doing this forever, won't you? You'll lose a fragment. So what? You'll just go back and get another one as long as you guys are having fun. Yeah, while you're having fun, I'm dying over here. Would you mind not being such babies about this?
Right.
So, yeah, he had a great assertion. A jerk about it, yeah, but that's the way things sometimes play out. So there was a bit of maturity to that way of telling the story.
Right, and they didn't do the whole thing where he's being brainwashed by a higher power. There wasn't no higher, monster kind of controlling him, telling him to do this. He did it kind of on his own, and like I said, he wanted to live. So.
I mean, dying, that's a huge monster.
Right.
Down to it, but it's his, and it's not some otherworldly, weird storybook,
right.
Strange, sort of made up thing. Like, ha ha ha! I've got my claws set.
Yeah, I can almost take it back with a comment I just said about him being a main focus. It's like his story, if you think about it, it's pretty dark. So I think that's probably why they chose not to go that route. I mean,
it's a good reflection.
Right. I mean, the girls have they're bright and fun, shiny and having fun. On the other end, not so much with Minato. He's got his set of issues and all that.
Oh yeah.
And the last thing I'll mention here is I kind of wanted more magical powers. I mean, for me,
yes,
the best thing about magical girls is how they use their abilities. But this one's more like witches, more than magical girls, because they have the broomsticks, obviously. So I guess you could say maybe they're more magical witches, not so much magical girls, but they do still transform. So I mean, it still counts, in my opinion.
It kind of emphasized, instead of them having to maybe use powers, to use their own natural-born cleverness to figure things out when you get right down to it. So maybe the use of like spells would have kind of like gotten in the way of that, them having to use their cleverness. But again, still, I know exactly what you mean. That would have been a bit more crunchy to have them being able to cast spells from some sort of book, or to have a display.
Yeah.
But they were going for a different tact.
Right. This was more like almost like science magical girls. Because a lot of things they're using, like the plebeian would explain a certain thing about science and things.
As the old saying goes, significantly very, very, very advanced technology is indistinguishable from science, or indistinguishable from magic.
Right.
Oh, screw me. What do I know what I'm talking about?
No problem. And I guess the last thing I mentioned would be, again, overall, I think this was fun. But I'm gonna miss Nanako, Itsuki, and Haruka. Those three characters, because they're fun, and did a little bit of Al. She got to be. I think I started hating her in the beginning because her attitude, but we fixed that because you did remind me that we are dealing with little kids here, so they're gonna be that kind of way, and I was like, yeah, that is true. There's a good point on that, but yeah, Subaru, as being the main focus, I think 90% of the time. I don't know. I don't really like her that much. She kind of still a little bit annoying to me, but she did grow on me near the end. I mean, like you said, she had her goals, and the introduction of Minato and her being this couple was nice. I mean, I thought it was pretty good how they paired them up. But yeah, anything you got to say on that overall?
Yeah. With Subaru, they kind of played that character where she was the typical person that kind of looks up to the stars, but so that means that the path right in front of her isn't as obvious when you get right down to it. So it's kind of confusing in that regard. So she kind of has to shift her focus from, constantly like, her head in the clouds or her head in the stars, and be like on Earth and see what matters to the people around her and different things like that. So yeah, she had to be a character that kind of had to grow on you by growing up herself a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I'll miss Hikaru. She was my favorite character just because I like sassy people.
Yeah,
like that.
Mine would be Nanako. I think she was just fun, like you said. Her interaction with the plebeian was always a highlight. And looking at the voice cast, she did voice both parts, so it must have been fun for her to be like all so dressed, sad, and then be like, oh, I'm happy, all this hyper energy. It must have been interesting in the recording booth. to
It always
do those.
it always makes me wonder, because we go back to another slightly magical girl show, AKB 0048, and how it had
Oh
those
yeah,
little aliens that kind of. I
they're
wonder
voiced
if
by
they,
people too, I think.
yeah, they were. They were
Yeah.
voiced by one person.
Yeah.
That they never showed on camera during the
No.
special. And I don't think they even credited. But it always makes me wonder, do VAs or voice directors or directors have, like, this is the vocabulary? Or they just say, give us some babble, make it up, make it sound good.
Yeah, give us a alien voice, or give us a give us something silly sounding.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, like, certain actors can do it. I mean, like, I know Kekai Sensen hasn't really ended, and Ray Kugami doing voices for both characters, black and white, and they're both kind of vastly different. White is more talkative, and black's more dark.
She's a damn talented voice actress. I mean, come on.
But yeah, the plebeian and Nanako, I thought that was pretty cool how they did that. Like, it was just nice. They could easily brought in someone else to do the plebeian, but they changed it up. I like that. And where'd you give this an overall? For me, I think I hit it like a high, like 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
It was really enjoyable. It wasn't really too complex. Sometimes it was, but yeah.
I have different tastes that are met when you get right down to it. So, like, Hibike Euphonium was the show I named as anime of the season.
Right.
So in comparison, it's like this one I think is fighting for either the number 2 or number 3 spot.
Mm-hmm.
With, for me personally, shows like Plastic Memory.
Right.
Even though it's not over yet, the disappearance of Nagato Yuki-chan. It's kind of really fighting hardcore for, like, to get a top spot, but it was charming as hell. I loved what it did. I loved the direction it pointed into with science and how it kind of, had great creative license with it, and it was fun. So yeah, this is really in the top 5. I just can't decide where.
Oh yeah, it'd be like, at least in mine, like maybe on the 4th, because for me, Kekai was I was at number 1 because it's so entertaining. But I'm pretty sure there'd be a review of that whenever the episode's released.
Oh,
and then we can pour in all our love for that series. But yeah, this one I would really recommend this to anyone who wants the Magic World series. That's not heavy on magic, but more on character building, world building, and a little bit of science thrown in there.
I recommended this to a friend of mine whose kid grew up loving Ghibli films, and I recommended this show to them. That their kid's like 12. And I also recommended Kekai Sensen as well, which they said that they all enjoyed because they thought it was so funky. So yeah, this is a good show to recommend to people,
right?
Especially if they have kids around that age group, and if they can, of course, get over the fact that they have to read subtitles.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And yeah, so I think that's the final review for this series. And with this, I was surprised again in the beginning. It was just a 2-part OVA. Yeah, then it was a 3-part OVA, shorts and all this. And now it's a series. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe this trend happens with other shows, other series, Little Witch Academia. I hope anyway that they do a series on that instead. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, it's just cool seeing them take a project like that and maybe take a risk. Even though people will say, well, this is obviously them trying too hard, to get this off the ground. But I think they finally got it off the ground. It was a pretty good success for me, at least.
They did terrific. So I mean, this is one of those instances where you can say Gainax didn't exactly go back to form like they used to have, but man, they discovered something good. Yeah,
they kind of did something new. I don't recall them doing very many Magic World series in the past, but yeah, I mean, some people probably correct me on that. But yeah, for them to, I would say, almost kind of sort of take a risk on that. But most people would say, well, Gainax isn't the Gainax we used to know, and that's true. But maybe they want to branch out, and everything changes. So, but yeah, I think this was a good series, and that's it. So, see you guys next time. Yeah.
Go out and buy a Subaru, okay?
Right. Yeah. I forgot that this was based on a car commercial.
Go out and buy a new car from Subaru, yeah.
Yeah. If you buy it, maybe you might get a girlfriend or boyfriend because time travel. Maybe you don't know. I was gonna mention that it was funny that how we reviewed Punchline in this show, both having a time travel element thrown in. So I thought that was pretty funny. And a little bit of science and magic girls and all kinds of stuff, but yeah, this was fun.
Exactly.
See you guys next time.
Later on, folks.